What's going on, everyone? We are back for a live edition of the Bleed Los podcast, Carne Asada. It was a big day for MLB. The Dodgers acquired 6 pieces, said goodbye to Dustin May and James Outman. And how would we grade this year's trade deadline? All that and more coming up next. Hello again, everyone. This is a live edition of the Carne Asada, and we have an OG with us tonight. You know him, you love him, Cody Snavely, also known as Canelo. He's our Bleed Los podcast colleague, brings us incredible articles day in and day out. He's here to help us roundtable and give us his perspective because it is one of the most exciting days in the MLB Trade Deadline day. We also have Anthony in the house, and producer Roger is behind the scenes. As you know, I am Drea. We're going to break it all down for you, MC Hammer style tonight, guys, right? So thank you all for joining us. But before we get to all that, we've got to make sure we tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the Los Angeles Dodgers. It is your one stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat. And check out DodgersBeat.com. Cody, welcome. It is a treat to have you with us. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. It's great to be back. Obviously, like you said, it's a very, busy day. It's a highly anticipated day, especially we're all fortunate enough the Dodgers have been contenders for, a decade plus now. So they're always active and ready to make moves. But it's kind of a mixed bag this deadline. I like some of the moves they made. I also have some gripes about how they went with it. I know probably Anthony and yourself are also feeling that way as well. And you can kind of see it on social media. It's kind of a civil war going on Dodger Twitter land. But I'm interested to see what you guys think, kind of diving into all this, where we think the team's going, kind of discussing the Padres. Because I know Roger, he calls them, the little brother, but they're looking a lot better these days. So, but yeah, I'm excited to talk shop with you guys.
I love it. Anthony, how you doing?
Doing good. Past 48 hours, a lot of emotions, especially because I was at Disneyland yesterday with friends, and out of nowhere, because I have my notifications on, I get the Shohei has been pulled from the game notification, and I saw the happiest place on earth for like about 20 minutes was not the happiest place to be at. But thankfully, all was good, just cramps. And then today, kind of the same deal, kind of just waiting. And then finally, we did have some moves. I know a lot of people kind of left underwhelmed. I have that feeling too, but I feel like in the end, we did the smart thing. Sometimes the best trade is not making a trade or a big move like some other teams did make, but we'll discuss as we go on. But yeah.
Oh, we sure will. Yeah, just to kind of touch bases. We will talk about Shohei during the show, but yeah, I think my metaphorical life, my MLB life flashed before my eyes when I thought something had happened to Shohei. And so thanking God that he is okay because, he's Shohei and he's our unicorn, but we'll definitely get into all of that. But I just kind of wanted to start off, even though we're going to go through all of the people that we acquired. And now that we've had time to process just a little bit, what we think about them, where they fit in, how they fit in, and just the whole 9 yards. But what were both of you, I could fill this to either one of you, but what were your initial thoughts when late last night, we got the first few names. And I had to look them up. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't know who they were. I was not expecting to see it. But those first few guys, I think it was a 3-way trade with the Rays and the Reds. So left-handed pitcher Adam Serwinowski, right-handed pitcher Paul Gervase, and catcher, I'm going to call him Ben. I believe it's Rortvedt, but we lost Hunter Feduccia over that whole trade. So let's just kind of go into those right now. What do we know about them? What were your thoughts initially when that came through?
Initially, I was kind of surprised because you heard no rumblings that the Dodgers were involved, and then they kind of were just tossed in there. I'm like, whoa, why? Initially it was like, why? But then when I started reading more articles about it, they're just getting more prospects. So I felt like since it happened yesterday, I thought maybe they're gonna get these guys and they're gonna use it for a bigger move, aka today, but it didn't end up happening. So I was kind of the feeling was okay, maybe they're just kind of retooling. Then maybe they have their eyes set on something in the off season, heading forward. So maybe they're just hoarding as much prospects as possible. But so that's the initial first thought I had when I saw it go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I think at first glance of the trade, I actually do like the trade for what it is. It's kind of just a dump of Hunter Feduccia, who's been in the organization for a good while now. He's a 28-year-old, catcher, been with the organization in AAA, waiting for an opportunity, and the opportunity just unfortunately was never going to come. Besides, a brief IL stint for Freddie Freeman, or an IL stint for Austin Barnes when he was with the team. Other than that, the Dodgers really never gave him or trusted him enough. They only added him to the 40-man roster last year because they had to before I believe he was Rule 5 eligible, and he could have gotten taken by another team. And not a lot of at-bats, not a lot of faith there, I guess, and it makes sense. Will Smith signs that long-term extension, and he's obviously, we're seeing the production he's had this year, one of the best catchers or arguably the best catcher in baseball, depending on who you ask. And then you got the top prospect in the system, which is Dalton Rushing, who the Dodgers have, they've said that they've loved this guy. He's a Louisville product, just like Will Smith as well. The hit tools really hasn't translated to the major league level yet, and I just believe that's due to lack of playing time, being the backup catcher. But the backup catcher spots taken by Rushing, Feduccia wasn't going to get to that. And the Dodgers, were smart. They said, let's get some value of him while we can, while also giving him an opportunity. I don't know where he's going to start out with the Rays. I know they traded away Danny Jansen, who was their catcher, so maybe he gets a call up to the major league level, gets a runway to start for a team that's in contention, surprisingly enough. But I really love the prospects that came back with this deal just because they're very interesting. Well, Ben Rortvedt, he's a major league guy. He has more major league experience than whatever Feduccia had. He's not really good, batted, I believe, under 100 in his MLB career, but, he does have that experience that the Dodgers won it. I think he's just going to rack it out in AAA. He's a free agent at the end of the season, so that probably just gives them flexibility at the minor league level. But the other guys, Paul Gervase is very interesting. He did have a stint with the Rays at the major league level this year. Really good, had a high K percentage, is somebody that could join the bullpen possibly later this season or as early as next season. But I think the cherry on top of this is who they got from the Cincinnati Reds, and that's Adam Serwinowski. This guy is a freak, 6'10" left-handed pitcher. He instantly, I think, became the number 3 pitching prospect in the Dodgers system. And it's kind of that Andrew Freeman special where they give away something that really didn't matter, and they get a lot of, production or product back in return that they, like Anthony, I thought maybe they could have used it today, but I think they're just trying to, similar to Michael Busch, there's no spot. Let's get some pitchers back in return.
Yeah.
A la, Jackson Ferris. But I was happy with this trade. Good trade to get off to the deadline. But yeah, other than that, I think it's a solid, win-win for everybody. The Reds get the pitchers that they needed in Littell. The Rays get some, depth at the catching position, and they were also aggressive today. And the Dodgers just get value for a player that really didn't have a spot, which is something they also did later that we'll talk about with James Outman.
I agree, yeah. And MLBers, we're talking like Hunter Feduccia being, at a place where he was either going to play or he wasn't. And with the Dodgers, that was probably not going to happen. So hopefully you get to see him get his opportunity because, like, I think Anthony and I were talking last week, the Dodgers are constructed in a way that we, don't have a lot of space open for a lot of those players in our minor league system that are very good, but they're just not going to get the chance. There was a lot of rumblings this week about Dalton Rushing. Some people were like, yeah, we can get something for him. And some people are like, oh no, we need to keep him in the system because he's really learning our pitchers. He can call a good game. He's getting better and better. Was there ever a chance we were going to lose Rushing? What do you guys think?
I don't think so. I think that was kind of just like fielding offers. Like a lot of these names were kind of just fielding offers. Like Jarren Duran in Boston was kind of fielding offers. I think it was more of a smokescreen kind of deal. Like, okay, like he's out here. Like, what can it fetch us? Basically, I don't really think there was like any thought process behind actually like giving him up, unless something in return was coming back. I think it was more of a smokescreen, if anything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too, just because it goes against everything the Dodgers front office between Andrew Freeman, Brandon Gomes, and even Dave Roberts in his pregame and postgame pressers, where they thought the world of Rushing. They valued him extremely high, even with Will Smith on the team. I mean, it's very hard to get one hitting productive catcher in baseball, but when you have the potential to have two, that's something that's very rare. And I think that's a big example or a big reason why Will Smith is having the year that he is having, where you don't have to worry about, as good as Austin Barnes was in years past, you don't have to worry about him, batting, starting 2 or 3 games a week, especially in the dog days of summer. Now Will Smith can get that ease knowing that he doesn't have to start every single day to bring his bat in the lineup. Because while the slash line doesn't look as pretty for rushing, it's productive enough. And I never thought they were going to trade him. Like Anthony said, if it was for somebody I really wanted, like if Duran was really available, I thought that made sense. And then we had some smoke with the Red Sox possibly looking into it. The only other move I probably would have made is say if they wanted to throw a trade, a massive trade with Quan and Clase before he got, suspended or put on leave for the gambling thing now. Other than that, that was probably the only 2 players that I probably would have packaged rushing with, but it would have also put the Dodgers in a hole because you trade away rushing. Unless you keep Feduccia around, you really don't have a backup catcher unless you want Chucky Robinson in the minors to come up and eat some innings, which I don't think that would have worked out well. So I think the Dodgers know what they have with rushing. Maybe in the offseason they revisit it where they can kind of take the time, sign a veteran, catcher, trade for another catcher along those lines. But I think rushing's here for the long haul because you're going to have to talk about where Will Smith's going to play in the latter half of his contract. And I know they've been talking about third base, first base, something along those lines. And I think rushing, I want him to stay.
I do too. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Will Smith, but I mean, it was exactly a year ago that we were seeing that he had, a little bit of a shakier second half than the first half. Now this year, luckily, we're not seeing that. We're seeing a lot of production, but knock on wood, in the event that Will Smith would, get maybe a little minor injury, have to be like down 1 or 2 weeks or longer, do we really want to go into the stretch or get to postseason and not have rushing? Like, who would we go into postseason with as the catcher? And I would definitely trust rushing in that position if we had to rely on it. So I'm very glad that they kept him. So at the end of the day, I think that was the right move. Definitely let us know what you think. If you want to send us a super chat or kind of send us a comment, we'll be kind of checking those throughout the show. I think we've got one. So kind of want to thank 300 JW. So yeah. Let's go ahead and I'll read that and then we'll kind of just stop and kind of come back to the things that we were going to talk about. But I guess he says, I really felt they needed to go for a second bullpen arm because they don't trust pitchers that say, I felt a sting in my elbow. Okay, what do we think about that?
Yeah, I feel that's why it's kind of a little bit of an underwhelming feeling because we only did get one arm. And also, I realized the name Brock Stewart, probably a lot of Dodger fans are probably thinking about the guy from previous years and not current day Brock Stewart. Because immediately when I saw the trade, I got a few texts from buddies are like, Brock Stewart, question mark. And I'm like, first of all, let me digest the trade before I answer to that text back. But after I started reading up on it and looking at the numbers, he's been really, really elite against right-handed pitchers. And that's what we talked about last week, that our left-handed options out the bullpen are pretty good. I have confidence in Dreyer, Vesia, Anthony Bonda stepped it up the last couple of weeks. So the where we're lacking in the bullpen is kind of right-handed options at this point. So I do feel like we're kind of one arm short, but maybe they're just it's just another vote of confidence in Kirby Yates and hopefully he figures it out. Because if he figures it out, then I think we might be set. Or maybe they're trying to if Roki comes back and then you transition him into the bullpen kind of deal. So there's a lot of options to play here with. I know coming out that Dustin May wasn't really enamored with the idea of coming out of the bullpen, so they kind of traded him off to Boston. Yeah. And I mean, if it's good for him, it's good for him. He wants to be a starter pitcher and he wants to prove it. So I respect his decision there. So if he wants to prove that he can be a pitcher in the big leagues, then yeah, if he's not going to be happy in the bullpen, kind of why have him here and kind of just making faces, doing this and that. So best of luck to him. So hopefully he figures it out there in Boston. But I do feel we might be one arm short in the bullpen, but we'll see what happens in the second half here.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That's kind of where when we get into later, when we talk about the grades of the deadline, you look at the Dodgers bullpen, they signed pretty much everybody that they should have signed, or, you could have dreamed that they would sign. Kirby Yates, all-star last year. Yeah. Tanner Scott, all-star, one of the best closers in baseball the last couple of years. They fortify it by bringing back Blake Trinan. They have Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda broke out with the team last year. The list goes on and on. That's kind of the Dodgers motto or their MO, where they take pitchers in, they reclamation projects and make them, studs. They did it for Evan Phillips. They did it for all these other guys. you look at this year, there's some cracks in that foundation. Tanner Scott, before he goes on the IL with an elbow injury, 7 blown saves, ties a career high for him going back to his early days, with Baltimore. And then you go back to how many innings that this team is pitching out of the bullpen. Obviously, the statistics are a little skewed because, they've been using Ohtani as an opener or going 2, 3, or 4 innings. So, Emmett Sheehan, Justin Robleski, all these guys are coming in pitching 6 innings. That goes against your bullpen totals, but they're still leading all of baseball by a good margin, I believe, over 25 innings. And the next closest club, the White Sox, they're at 475 innings so far this year. And the production's kind of showed for it. They're middle in the pack of walks per 9, home runs per 9. That's been an issue. They rank 20th in baseball. I feel like we've seen that at Dodger Stadium. It's kind of turned into a home run park over the last 5 or 6 years. 22nd in ERA. They're kind of bottom of the pack. And the teams that were around them were the teams that were very aggressive for bullpen help. The Phillies, the Yankees, the Cubs, and I believe I think the Mets were in that category as well. And then you got the Padres. They had technically, I think, the best ERA in baseball, or top 3, and they go and get Mason Miller, which we'll digest a little bit later. But obviously the big issue was the bullpen. And I think it's a very big risk to count on guys coming back from injury, especially when it's arm, elbow, or shoulder related. I know Gratterall is going to come back eventually at some point this year. Blake Trinan is back. We've seen him. He looks a little rusty, 37 years old, dealing with an elbow or right forearm strain. That's something to watch, but it's a big risk for the Dodgers side, but I understand why they did it. It's just like Anthony said, like our super chat said, I wanted a little bit more to feel a little more at ease, because if one more guy goes down with an injury, say Tanner Scott doesn't come back, Dodgers are kind of in a hole right there for their bullpen going into October. They're going to have to get creative with what they do. I do like Brock Stewart, which we'll start to go in next when we start talking about that.
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on that whole situation, I think myself too, I was waiting up until like the exact deadline, is another name going to come through? And I keep seeing other teams get those names. So I see the big picture now, and I'm kind of more comfortable with it. But initially I thought, I think we're going to need a little bit more. So I do understand, the little tensions people are feeling on social media. I get it. But then I also have to kind of ask you guys, is that a sign that the prices were just too inflated? Maybe they did want someone else, but then, maybe what they were asking for from the Dodgers was just stuff that Andrew Friedman was just not willing to give up.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's kind of that. Like maybe in the coming days we'll find out like, they were asking for so and so and so and so. But I know a lot of people probably get upset like, they prospect hug. Like we got to keep these prospects. But like there was years ago like where I forget which team wanted Corey Seager, and can you imagine if we ended up trading Corey Seager? Same goes with Cody Bellinger. So like there's a reason why the front office keeps these guys, because they see something in them. We're not going to necessarily see it right now. They're not going to come up to the big club right now and like make an impact, but like maybe in a year or two, they'll be probably in the outfield or in the infield or replacing our older guys. Like I said last time, we tend to be a very older team, and we have to find like solutions to those older guys. Unfortunately, like Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, those guys are like in their late 30s. Blake Trinan, late 30s. Miguel Rojas, another name, late 30s. So like we are an older team, so that's a reason why we kind of want to give these young guys a shot. And if they're any good, they'll slot right into our lineup. So initially, especially for Mason Miller, the price that the Padres paid, I kind of was left in like awe and like shock, because I was like, that's a lot for a reliever. And like, I know I have a few buddies that are Padre fans, and they're like, they're kind of like, but we have to go all in. And in my head, I was kind of like, not necessarily, not all the time. Like, I know, like I always tell them, like the playoffs is kind of just like a crapshoot, like kind of just like make it. And like if you get hot, you get hot. So like we saw a few years back, the Diamondbacks made the World Series. So, so I'm kind of glad we didn't like give up the farm basically for a reliever. And like, what if we trade for him and like he comes here and he's just not effective with us? And then like now you have people upset like, we gave up all this. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You win or you lose basically. So I'm really not upset by like not giving up the farm basically for a reliever.
Yeah, and the prices were astronomically high this deadline for bullpen arms. And it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Look at all the teams that were in need of bullpen help. They were all big market teams that are World Series or bust mode. Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, both New York teams. And then the Dodgers, among other teams that are around baseball. Everybody wants bullpen help. That's like one of the things, going into October. Oh, we won because of our bullpen or we lost because of our bullpen. So, and everything I listed off before, the Dodgers clearly needed bullpen reinforcements. They didn't have enough internally to get it done, which shows that, getting Brock Stewart to kind of fill the void there for a right-handed reliever to kind of replace what they lost with Evan Phillips. But I also am in the same boat as Anthony and a lot of other Dodger fans. I mean, if you're looking at some of the prices that some of these teams paid, like look at, Duran, the Phillies give up Mick Abel and a young catching prospect. That would have been kind of a comp with the Dodgers giving up Mike Sirota and Eduardo Quintero. That's two of your top five prospects in the organization for a relief pitcher, a closer. Granted, he has 2 years of control, but any other deadline, I'd probably be like, that seems like a little bit to me, but in the right trade package, I would get rid of those guys. But it just shows, the Giants trading away some of their guys with Rodgers, the Mets gave up a haul with that. The Padres pretty much just went astronomically overhaul to get who they wanted with Mason Miller and JP Sears. They gave up the number one prospect in baseball, a 19-year-old shortstop prospect. The only reason I think the Padres can just get by, for whatever reason, AJ Preller and his scouting team just keeps churning out these younger guys. They always seem to have top prospects that are very sexy and enticing to these other clubs where they can get these deals done.
Yeah.
Some type of devil magic. My man's AJ Preller's on MLB The Show mode. He just be swinging and dealing these trades and making the Padres a contender. And the one thing I would take away from it is, how many times have the Padres won the trade deadline? Probably like 3 out of the last 5 years. They've only moved on to the NLCS once. The Dodgers, in that same time frame, have won 2 World Series. Last deadline was a little bit better than this year's deadline, but this year the Dodgers didn't really have much to fix in terms of, lineup rotation. It was really just bullpen or bust. But the Padres clearly had a goal to make their bullpen even better. And the other additions that they've added, which we'll talk about later, they do look like a very fierce team to face, especially down the stretch, only having a 3-game lead. I just got to give credit to them. I mean, if you're a Padres fan, it was fun for you today. I mean, they were just making trades left and right. Dodger fans, including myself, were a little frustrated to see what they did or what they didn't do. And, credit to them. They went all in, but some of the prices that some of these teams were paying, it would have been uncomfortable, but you could sell me on it. I'm never going to be one to say I'm never trading these prospects for this player, because who knows, that said player that you could have gotten could be the difference between you winning or losing a game in October and the postseason. My whole thing with my friend group here in Philadelphia, it's flags over prospects. That's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. If the Dodgers or the Padres don't win it all, then you won't remember the trade deadline.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that one, but I think the Padre fans, if I was kind of in their podcasts and kind of listening to kind of their reactions, it's a mixed bag. Not everyone is super stoked on it. They're a little afraid of what they gave up, but at the end of the day, it's always parades over prospects. Padres don't have that parade yet. Well, hopefully we do, but I think that it was a little reactionary to all of the hype over the Dodgers. Like all this time we got Shohei, we got Roki, we got a lot of the pieces that they have been wanting. And I feel like they're thinking we're this close. If we just go all in, we can take it from them. And they've obviously been watching us struggle. But this just shows that there was a lot of confidence from Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes, the front office, that what they put together in the offseason, they still truly believe in. They believe in the guys. And yeah, we have to get healthy. Yes, we have to perform at our top level. But I just think they semi-prepared us for the fact that, they didn't want to have to do mega deals during this time when prices would be overinflated. They have said that. And I think we just need to accept and understand that they probably have a much bigger picture than we do. We only see a piece of their puzzle and they have a lot more data to work with. So I'm going to trust them because they have steered us right in the past. And so they must have, really good instincts on what these guys can be for us. So yeah, I want to kind of delve a little deeper into Brock Stewart and kind of even talk about James Outman, because that's a piece we're seeing go away in that trade, a 1-for-1. He's a high leverage reliever. And I believe he used to be with us. Am I right? In 2019?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was, yeah.
Oh, so tell me a little more on him. What do we really know? Let's dive deeper.
So for Dodger fans, you just have to ignore previous, like pre-COVID Brock Stewart, basically. Just like that's not the same guy that you have now. He's turned himself into an elite bullpen arm. He kind of specializes against right-handed pitching. We lose James Outman. Like I've said, I just felt like he never recovered from dropping that ball in the NLDS against Arizona. I just felt like it was all just downhill from there mentally. But he's going to Minnesota. Minnesota kind of just blew it up. So he's going to go to a situation where there's like zero expectations. Probably like the perfect place to kind of go, just hide and like rake, basically. This is basically your chance to like play every day, get as many at bats as you want, and like just there's zero expectations there. It was like if you were like,
I thought that
decent,
too, Anthony. But they optioned him to AAA. they optioned him to AAA today. Yeah. So they not only did they trade away 10 of their 26 players on the roster, they optioned James Outman.
Okay. So okay. The Twins are doing some interesting stuff.
They blew it up. Oh my God.
But yeah, I wish him the best of luck there. Hopefully he does get like playing time there. Like I said, he has there's no weight on his shoulders there. He can just go be himself and just play baseball and have fun basically at that point.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, I like this trade just because it's a straight up 1-for-1. The Dodgers get something that they needed in a right-handed relief pitcher that's really good against right-handed hitters, and they get rid of James Outman, who, for lack of a better term, he was a quadruple A player. He played really good with the AAA Comets this year. Had an OPS over 900, 2020 season, 20 home runs, 20 doubles. For whatever reason, he just could not put it together at the major league level. Strikeout percentage at this year in the show, almost at half. I believe it was almost at the 50% mark. That just isn't a major league ready bat, not even for your bench. You can't just go up there and wave the stick and not make contact. And defensively, Outman, I give him credit over his career. He went from being like a very football-esque player to a very good defender and a very good baseball player in terms of base running, defense, stuff like that, which is why I wish he could hit, because if he could, even at like a slightly above league average level, he would have been a very serviceable center field for the Dodgers, would have changed their outfield outlook. We're talking about a guy that finished top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting just like 2 seasons ago, started center field in Game 1 of the NLDS. I think after that dropped catch and in that Game 1, I think it's just been a whole downward spiral for Outman. And you get him, like Anthony said, you get him to a team. Clearly, they're in full rebuild mode. The team's up for sale. So if you're wondering why they traded away all these guys with multiple years of control, Carlos Correa going back to Houston, who's owed over $100 million, they're getting ready to sell that team. That's why they're dumping whatever is left to the new ownership. But you get Brock Stewart back. And Brock Stewart, like Anthony said, is not the same guy that was with the team from 2016 to 2019. Went overseas, reinvented himself, throws a lot harder, and is in a role that he's comfortable with now. When he was with the Dodgers, he was brought up as a starter. They kind of moved him back and forth. He was kind of Ross Stripling before Ross Stripling, and he would start games, he would relieve games, he would do bulk inning stuff. Dodgers just used him to eat innings throughout the regular season. You didn't really see him in the postseason or anything meaningful there. But you look at the reason why they got him. Andrew Friedman said back in May when Evan Phillips went down with Tommy John surgery that the Dodgers needed to get a right-handed reliever that specializes against right-handed hitters. And they got that. Brock Stewart this season, hitters are hitting just 104 against him, right-handed specifically, 327 OPS and a 40% K rate. That's borderline elite. It's actually better than Duran from the Twins, where right-handers were actually hitting 228 against him. So you look at it there, the Dodgers get what they need. Straight up 1-for-1. Don't give up much. Don't give up a prospect in the way either. So I think this trade's good for what it is. Like I said, it yearned me for wanting more from the team, where it's like, oh, you didn't give up a prospect for him? All right, use that to go get something else. But the Dodgers didn't do that. So, but I think you have to be happy with Brock Stewart. And I'm interested to see how he looks and how Dave Roberts utilizes him in the bullpen. They got their high leverage guys, especially with Trinan back, but now it's kind of, you're seeing as the team gets healthier, they're going to have to start making moves and roster cuts and saying who's good in what spot. And Stewart, he's a Swiss Army knife. Like I said, he could start, could go bulk, but we'll see what happens.
That's exciting to hear that because I mean, at the end of the day, like I didn't really think they were going to go all in on Mason Miller. So I really like to see that seems that there's going to be production here that we need to see. And so, yeah, the numbers look good. So I kind of was doing a little bit of diving into him. So 2.38 ERA, and he's had 29 strikeouts and 67 at bats. I mean, and he is lethal against, I believe, it's right-handers, correct? So he's definitely a weapon that I'm going to look forward to seeing out there. So that was the second trade of the day. And so we're kind of going to travel down the road a little bit into the one that we heard next, which is Alex Call, an outfielder from the Nationals. Let's kind of just dive into him a little bit because I know a lot of people are talking that they wanted Stephen Kwan. And so if we look at their savant pages, there's some similarities there. There's some comps that we could talk about. And he's supposed to be good against lefties. So he improves us on the margins. What do you guys think of him?
Yeah. So Alex Call, he's under team control until 2029. So that's kind of one of those, like, he'll be with us for a while, unless he gets like shipped off in the offseason or something. But yeah, above average defender, very underrated. He's kind of like I hate to compare the two, Stephen Kwan and himself, but like he's kind of like, I could imagine if like the price for some of these relievers were pretty high, I could imagine the price for Stephen Kwan himself was probably like insane as well too. So probably this is probably, I hate to say it, but plan B, maybe option B for the Dodgers. Like we say, we discussed like around like 10 names, like, but that's only like just from like rumors we were hearing. So we don't know like on the board what Brandon Gomes and Andrew Friedman kind of had. So maybe this was the name they had listed underneath him. So Alex Call is kind of like, he has a .802 OPS against left-handed pitching. So he plays all outfield spots. So it's kind of like, I feel like he'll be a big factor for us down the stretch. Kind of like, I know he's playing well right now, but Conforto, he survived the trade deadline, so he's going to be with us for the rest of the season. But I feel like it might be kind of like a platoon situation out in left field between the two of them. So like against left-handed pitching, maybe you'll see Alex Call start, and then against right-handed pitching, maybe you'll see Michael Conforto start. So I feel like that's where we're heading, especially with Tommy Edman still dealing with his ankle. I know in a healthy world, if he was 100% healthy, he'd be playing center field in my dream scenario, and then you'd have Tail out in left and Pages out at right. So I think we're heading towards a platoon situation between the two, Alex Call and Michael Conforto. So I think it just depends on the pitching situation that day. So.
Yeah, I think the fortunate part with me compared to other Dodger fans is I do live on the East Coast. Everybody knows that. So I'm in National League East territory. And Alex Call, when I was in DC covering the team earlier this year, he got off to a very hot start this year, was batting, I think, north of 350, on-base machine, didn't strike out a lot. And that's kind of continued the entire season. He's one of those guys that came up very late. You know, he's in his 30s now, still has a lot of, control left via arbitration. So that's another thing for the Dodgers. They get a guy, has some decent upside. They got him under team control, I believe, until 2029. So that's a good thing right there. Yeah. What I like about him is that he is very similar to Stephen Kwan, and shout out to Blake Harris for sharing that, screenshot side by side of their baseball savant page. Not guys that have tremendous pop. They just have good bat to ball skills and don't strike out. And in a lot of ways, Calls a little bit better at defense. We've seen Kwan's defense kind of shift down a little bit. Now he's in left field, doesn't really, travel anywhere else in the outfield for the Guardians. But you get Call. He doesn't cost much. You don't give up a lot. And you plug up a guy like Anthony said, he possibly is going to be a platoon option, late inning defensive replacement. That's something I was asking the Dodgers to do. One of the most underlying things I think the team did last year was take a flyer on Kevin Kiermaier. I'm not saying this just because I love Kevin Kiermaier. He was one of my favorite players growing up, but he really did make an impact late in games, going into center field, making some game-saving catches. That means a lot, especially when you have an outfield alignment like the Dodgers have this year. I know Pages has made his strides, but we've seen his blunders. We saw him drop that ball in left field the other night. But we also see Teoscar Hernandez. The stats don't like him in the outfield. Besides James Outman getting his little shifts down out there in center field, he couldn't hit. Alex Call can at least hit and get on base. I'll take a base hit any day. I'll take a walk. Doesn't strike out a lot. Doesn't chase. I like that move there. It's just not a sexy name, and that's why a lot of teams aren't, or a lot of our fans aren't going to like it. I mean, you're like, oh, they got Alex Call, and you're like, who? Who's that? Who's that? It's because it's on the Nationals. He's not popular. They're not a very good team this year. And the Dodgers pretty much getting pennies on the dollar. He's under team control. That's the stuff I like about this trade here. And I'm trying to get all my positive spin out on what they did this deadline before we get into it a little bit later. But I do like Alex Call. He doesn't move the needle as much as I would have wanted it to do, like a Stephen Kwan or someone along those lines. But the price for Kwan, for what he is, I don't know about you, Anthony, but I was never really sold on Kwan and giving up the farm for Stephen Kwan, even just by himself, because that apparently is what the Guardians were still asking without Clase. I'm saying if you package them together before Clase gets popped for the gambling thing, maybe. But Kwan by himself just never sold me, and I wasn't willing to give up that much talent for him. But, you get Alex Call, who's been very similar. He's not going to be an everyday starter, and I think it's kind of a move you can't really hate. You just, like we've been saying this episode, you wanted a little bit more out of this deadline.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you there. Like, once Clase got popped for the gambling, I was like, oh, that might be, like, difficult. I felt like, because I always felt like it might just be, like, a package deal, the two of them. And then, like, the thought of just, like, giving everything up for Stephen Kwan. And, like, I like him, good player, but as soon as Clase got popped, I'm like, oh, it might be over. Like, and I started, like, transitioning, like, whoa. What next, basically. So, but yeah, I kind of let go of that dream a few days ago.
I kind of thought, he got popped. Maybe his trade value is at an all-time low. You go to the Guardians like, hey, what are the odds? You should ask Clase.
Yeah.
All the jokes come out. I like the sound of putting the ball in play, because it seems like the Dodgers have been allergic to that with all their strikeout numbers lately. But when we get a little bit into the Red Series and what we just saw with that, we'll talk more about that. But I need a guy who can get hits, and I need to see runs manufactured, and whatever we got to do to get that, I'm all in, because it was very frustrating watching just the last month of July. So good on the front office for getting him, because it looks like that could be a positive. And then we're gonna just go right into the next one. I know we touched on Dustin May. I think there was pretty much like a general consensus that he probably was going to go this week. So I wasn't super surprised when I saw his name come up. I know it was late in the trade towards deadline, but for him, we acquired, I guess it's outfielder James Tibbs. Got to be honest, don't know too much about him. So what can you tell us about him?
Well, Tibbs, he was involved in a trade already. This is his third organization this year. He was drafted by the Giants last year, first round pick. Not very highly ranked prospect as of right now. I think I looked at his career slash line, batting around 230 with the 700 OPS. Obviously, room for improvement. But to get traded just a couple, several weeks later after you were involved in that trade is surprising. And I believe they also got another minor league outfielder as well, Zach Ehrhard, I believe that's his name. Yeah. And to get two prospects for Dustin May, I'll take it. That's kind of just dumping him off, kind of like what they did with Noah Syndergaard, 2 years ago, Paxton last year. You get value for what the Boston Red Sox need, which was starting pitching depth, because they've had a lot of unfortunate injuries in their rotation. And the Dodgers get two minor league prospects that may amount to something, may not. But Dustin May had no minor league options left, was a free agent at the end of this year. Brandon Gomes talked about it today, about an hour or two ago, saying that while he wouldn't have been against going to the bullpen, he was very reluctant and he wanted to remain a starter, which makes sense. Dustin May's missed so much time. And for the most part this season, he has been the workhorse of the rotation. If your name's not Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he's made all of his starts. He's gone at least 5, 6, sometimes 7 innings pitched this season. That's very good for the Dodgers. And he did his job there. Now with starters coming back like Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow came back a couple weeks ago. Clayton Kershaw's back. Ohtani, even though he got removed, it seems like everything's fine and dandy with him. He's going to continue to get stretched out. Dodgers had like 7 to 8 viable arms for a rotation that only has around 5 to 6 spots. And I love Dustin May, especially when he was coming up through the organization. Very, very fiery. Matched his red hair and everything he brought to the team. But it's really hard to come back from 2 UCL injuries and the throat thing that he went through last year and to still be the same. And we didn't see that same Dustin May this year. He was healthier, but he was kind of a shell of himself. I remember Dustin May when he was touching, 97 to 99 on the regular. Now it was like on a good day, he was hitting 96, 97. not a lot of movement, not a lot of the same pitcher. And I think the Dodgers saw that. They knew he wasn't going to be part of the organization in the future. They knew he wasn't really going to be impactful for the second half or in even October. So they did what they usually do. Let's try to get value when we can. And he goes to the Boston Red Sox team where now they can deal with it. It's not like Dustin May was lighting the world on fire this year. ERA almost at 5. He was kind of just dependable to give you innings. But now the Dodgers don't really need that. There's only 2 months left of the regular season, and then you got October. Now you just got to make sure that everybody's healthy. Yes, they're probably going to be in division race just like they were last year, but I like the trade just because you got rid of Dustin May and you got two prospects back in return. I think if you told me that yesterday, I probably would have been like, no, that's not where they're going to get. And they ended up doing it. So.
Yeah, I'm grateful that he took down the number of innings that he did for us. I mean, it wasn't always super consistent, but, he did his job. I think it ran its course. And for the remaining couple of months, I think that the key is going to be consistency. We really can't afford, we don't have a large margin for error anymore. So we really have to make sure that all the pieces that are in, that they are ready to go, because the Padres are getting a little too close to us. So I just want to kind of put a bow on all of the things that we saw last night and today, and just kind of get your overall impressions of the deadline itself. And what grade would you give the Dodgers for this trade deadline? Again, wasn't as flashy as past years, but what grade do you think that they deserve for this deadline?
Ooh, maybe I'm just a nice grader. I'd give them a.
You are though.
I'd give them a B, solid B. Just because there really wasn't there was names out there Mason Miller, Duran, of course, but there really wasn't a superstar out there like a Juan Soto in the past, Max Scherzer, Trey Turner. There really wasn't that top dog. Okay. So I already had my expectations kind of tamered. I'm okay, we kind of just only need a bullpen arm, maybe 2, another outfielder. So that's why I'm not I know people want to give Fs or Ds, but I feel if this team plays to 75% of what they're capable of, we have enough to compete with anyone. It's just that it's been so frustrating the past month where it feels we're only playing to 25% of our ability, and we haven't really put it all together over a long period of time. So that's why I can understand the frustration from all parts everywhere. But me personally, I'd give it a B. And then if they get the way for them to get an A is win it all in October. That's how you get the A.
The only way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those grades where it's can to be determined. It could be better, could get some extra credit down the line if you get, throw, 11 postseason wins and a World Series trophy. But it's hard. I look at it this year and it's definitely not an A. I wouldn't say it's a B, but I'm not going to say it's a D or an F either. I put in that C territory where you could talk me down to putting it as a C minus. But I think the Dodgers didn't do too much. And they didn't do too little. I think they did the marginal moves that we kind of were all in the back of our head. We're telling ourselves that's probably what they were going to do. They were kind of teasing us through their interviews and, with the multiple insiders around the league saying, they aren't going to trade any of their top prospects at this year's deadline. They just didn't like the players available. I know we mentioned Quan, where that seemed to be the guy that everyone was like, yeah, he's going to go to LA. They're going to have to give up, Hope, DePaula, and maybe Sirota and a pitching prospect. And I don't think the Dodgers ever really enticed that idea. They weren't going to trade away rushing. So once you're not going into what was a seller's market this year, and it's probably going to be a seller's market for the foreseeable future with the way the postseason format's, put together, where a lot of these teams are still in contention, the asking prices are pretty high. And I think the Dodgers, to Andrew Friedman's credit, he did everything he needed to do in the offseason. He re-signed the players that, helped them win a championship, and he brought in other guys around the league that were going to make this team astronomically better. I mean, who remembers everybody saying that the Dodgers broke baseball, and now it's kind of just an afterthought. Yeah. Dodgers are kind of broken themselves. They have pitching injuries. The position players aren't playing up to their standards. I like the players that they did bring in. I spoke highly of Call. I spoke highly of Brock Stewart. I like getting rid of James Outman because he doesn't have a spot. I like getting rid of Dustin May, clearing spots off the 40-man roster. That's all fine and dandy, but I give it a C or a borderline C minus because you look at what the league did around them, especially the National League and especially their division. The Padres got massively better. It's kind of more of a threat than it was last year about the players that they brought in. I mean, they obviously, like we said, clear-cut winners of the trade deadline. It remains to be seen how they play off of it, but you bring in Ryan O'Hearn, you bring in Roman Laureano, you bring in JP Sears, you bring in Mason Miller, Freddie Fermin, they get a catcher, they get a closer, they add to their bullpen, they add to their offense. The Dodgers are kind of just banking on their stars playing better. I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm going to bet on Mookie Betts being better, but I don't know, guys. He looks completely lost this season.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of stuff happen to him personally. He mentioned his stepfather passed away. That's something that doesn't go away. Like, you guys got to remember, these people are human. That doesn't go away just in a day or a week. He's already dealing with, having the worst season of his career. It seems like he's very frustrated. So you're betting on him to come back. Freddie Freeman does look like he's back. I'll say that right now. I think he's due for a really good August. Looked really good in that Cincinnati Reds series. But my biggest concern is the pitching. And I like the starting rotation and where it's at. I would have been happy if maybe they did an insurance, buy of getting an extra rotation arm. I like the idea of Shane Bieber, who hasn't really pitched at all this year, is on his rehab assignment. Bring him in maybe as a fallback option later. Tony Gonsolin ain't coming back. Obviously, they traded away Dustin May. Tyler Glasnow, as good as he is one of the most, futile pitchers in the league, probably in Major League history, where just one thing that goes wrong with his arm, his legs, his cramps, his thighs, he could be done for the season. Yamamoto is pitching the most innings he's ever pitched in his career. It's a risk, it's a gamble, and if it doesn't, 1 or 2 injuries, this Dodgers rotation, this pitching staff, it can be in shambles in October. The Padres, they still have their offensive issues. They went pitching heavy, but it's a lot closer between these two now than it was 24 to 48 hours ago, and that does make me a little uneasy. But even with the players that were out there, if they didn't really sell me, I think the Dodgers front office didn't really sell themselves, saying, you know what, we really do believe in this team. Let's go out and get somebody on the market. Let's get one of the best trade chips around. Obviously I love these prospects. I want to see them come up to the system and be good. But if you're looking at what the Mets have done, the Phillies have done, and the Padres have done, you kind of got to go with the market. The market goes up and down every year, every single season. And to his credit, Andrew Freeman remains firm on how he does his trades, especially at the deadline. And he didn't go all in. And that could bite the Dodgers in the ass, or it could be, like Anthony said, in like 2 to 3 months, if they win the World Series and Alex Call and Brock Stewart are huge reasons why, we'll probably have a retrospective next year saying, the Dodgers did win this deadline. They did it. They got the players they needed. They kept the farm system, but it is personally, it's disappointing for me when they don't get the best talent out there, just because it's not fun. It's not fun to say, I see the Padres mentioned at the beginning of the episode, bringing in everybody that they brought in. I'm like, damn, I want to have some fun. Remember when we brought in Max Scherzer and Trey Turner? I haven't felt that high at the deadline for the past couple of years, but that year they did that and they didn't win the World Series. Last year, they did some marginal moves as well. Obviously, Kopech and Tommy Edmonds a little bit bigger. Jack Flaherty, that's another one too. But they made it work last year. They can make it work this year. But like everybody's been saying, the catalyst of this season depends on the players they have actually performing up to their billing. I don't need Mookie Betts batting below 220 and getting paid $25-30 million. I don't need Freddie Freeman not hitting his first home run since in July yesterday. Didn't hit one since June 28th. I need those guys to be hitters at the top of the order. I need Shohei Ohtani not to strike out the clip he is. A lot of improvements across the board. Thankfully, they had off today. Tomorrow's August 1st. It's a brand new month. So take what you got with these players here. Hopefully you guys can turn the page, and Mookie Betts, wash whatever you've been looking at with the season already and just try to be you. And then I'll be more confident with the Dodgers. But it's hard. It's hard to look at how Betts has been playing, how the bullpen's been pitching, and to kind of get excited with how the team shapes up right now.
Yeah, no, I feel you. We're a greedy bunch. We want all the fancy toys to play with, and we want to win 162 and never lose and have it all. But it's not always going to be that linear, and we're just not always going to just get everybody and win every game. And there's the ups and downs of the season, and that's just kind of the nature of baseball. So as far as just to kind of round it out, I'm not going to give them a letter grade. I'm an actual teacher, and sometimes you just got to give credit, no credit. I'm going to give them credit. They don't deserve a no credit, but
Yeah.
I definitely want more. There's more to be seen. So I'm going to just say you guys get credit for that one. But yeah, we're just going to kind of round out the overall. I just wanted to kind of briefly ask you, if you could name a team that you think they won the trade deadline. They got it. Is it the Padres? Is it someone else? Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Just your kind of brief reaction to that.
Well, losers definitely Minnesota. I saw like a screenshot of like the graphic on Instagram, and it's just like every other post is a thank you so and so, thank you so and so, thank you so and so. I'm like, whoa. I hate to say it. I don't want to say it, but yeah, I think the Padres did a lot, and a lot of our rivals. Well, the Mets did a lot too to kind of solidify their bullpen as well too. So I hate to say it, but I think those two teams kind of like solidified themselves going down into the stretch run, and it's gonna be like, I think it's gonna be overall a very tight race for best record at this point. So I hate to say it, but I think those two won the trade deadline, and the obvious loser is Minnesota. Unfortunately, sorry to you guys.
Yeah, for Minnesota, they didn't really get much back in return. Carlos Correa was just traded 1-for-1 straight up. Houston's going to eat a decent chunk of the money, but he was only owed $100 million over the next, I think, 5 or 6 years, something along those lines. So relatively cheap. I imagine he's probably going to return back to form, just being in the Astros and being on a contender, not in Minnesota where it's cold and they're kind of wishy-washy in terms of their competitiveness. But I think the Mets, if you're not going to name the Padres as the clear winner, which I think from the amount of trades that they made and the players they brought in, you probably have to say most people are going to say, yes, A+, they did it. They're going for it. They're going to try to challenge the Dodgers. I think the Mets really did a really good job this deadline. Similar to, what the Padres did. They don't really care about their prospects, even though they got really smart man behind the scenes, David Stearns, who built up and created the current run of Milwaukee Brewers baseball. He's very smart, but he made some really good moves. Their bullpen, they got Ryan Helsley, they got Tyler Rogers, they got Gregory Soto. This is a team that was in the NLCS last year, forced the Dodgers to go to Game 6. They got Juan Soto, they got Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos. He's been up and down, but he seems like he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder now. And then they've sure up the outfield with Cedric Mullins, who, in his time in Baltimore, the last 3 years offensively just hasn't been there. But maybe the Mets find something, they tweak it. If not, he's an above-average defensive center fielder, so they got that. And the Phillies offense, I've been talking about this a couple of years. The Phillies is the one team I don't want the Dodgers to play in the postseason, just because from when I watch them in Philadelphia, whether I'm covering them or there as a fan, it's a miserable experience. I just don't think the Dodgers are built to handle Philadelphia baseball. We saw with Tyler Glasnow in April this year when the mound was rainy. Seems like this type of team, East Coast, West Coast, Phillies just have the Dodgers numbers over the last 2 or so years. That's a team that, got better. They got Harrison Bader, and they got one of the best closers in the league in Duran. So, but I would say the Mets is the team that I looked at the most, because I still think the Dodgers are going to outpace the Padres. Who knows what happens in a 3-game wild card matchup? No matter how many moves the Padres make, they can lose 2 games in a 3-game series just as any other team. So I like the Mets this deadline, and my Mets fans will like to hear that.
So I think we're definitely going to see the Mets kind of give us that challenge, and they had our number this year, so I'm a little bit worried about them. Ultimately, I think we will come out on top. I'm kind of what got me when I saw all of the pieces being traded, Carlos Correa back to the Astros. I'm thinking, now we need to have Mariachi Joe come back and have a showdown 2.0 and go in the World Series, and that would just be hilarious. But overall, I do think that provided that we get healthy, we're going to be a problem too. It's just that we haven't seen a lot of that in the last month. And there's a lot of like recency bias. Oh, the Dodgers, what's wrong with them? But they're still the Dodgers, and they have a lot of potential. And I think that the front office is showing that we believe in them. Like, we believe in you guys. Now show us. And I think that that's going to be something to really look forward to as we go down the stretch. But I kind of just want to round it out, make sure that we definitely touch on the Red Series just a little bit. I know that Shohei pitched, and there wasn't wasn't the Shohei that we were used to. I guess he's showing that he can be human. Just your general impressions of the series and maybe even Shohei's start. What did you guys think of that?
Well, I said I did want to see him face some adversity, just because like it's not always going to be roses. It's not always going to be perfect. I kind of want to see like how he bounces back. I didn't mean to like for him to like almost give me a heart attack when I got a notification saying that he was removed from the game. Because initially, I thought because he said that the report said he had thrown fastballs and he had yanked them all. So immediately I just went to like just negative thoughts. I'm like, like like the season basically just flashed in front of my eyes for like like 30 minutes there, and then I saw a few more tweets like, oh, he's actually staying in the dugout. So if he's not being checked, I mean, okay, good sign. Then he took an at bat. I'm like, okay, even better sign. So when it came out later that it was cramps, so I'm glad it was just cramps, and like maybe we can give him some bananas next time, like so kind of like stretch him out, stuff like that. But yeah, I do want to see how he bounces back in his next start. Like I said, it's not always going to be peaches and roses. So what's worrying more is kind of his hitting struggles now. He had that one game where he had the golden sombrero. He went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, and that was kind of
first time. Yeah,
he looked completely lost up there. That's the first time wherever I saw him, like whoa, this guy's kind of just out here kind of guessing at pitches, and he's looking really, really awful. So I'm kind of concerned, like he might be entering one of his little slumps. I know usually it doesn't last too long, but I'm willing to bet on the fact that maybe like going forward he figures something out. So that was where I was more concerned, is like hitting struggles, because that game kind of like left me a little bit scared. I'm like, oh, he might be like, if he starts slumping now, like what happens now? That's where it like kind of left me kind of scared.
Yeah, thankfully it was cramps. One thing about the East Coast, it sucks playing here. It's very humid, and Cincinnati is one of the worst parts like in this area. It sucks. And Ohtani got the worst of it, pitching with cramps. Clearly his body wasn't in sync. He threw like 6 or 7 straight balls. Dodgers weren't playing no games. He removed himself. We'll get him on the next time. Try to go 4 full innings, at Dodger Stadium. So I'm glad they did that, not to push things. It sucks not to get this sweep, just because I feel like they could have, even as bad as they played in terms of striking out a lot. Like Lodolo had their number. Ohtani, golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts. But like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Freddie Freeman looked really good this series. That's a highlight I'll take away. Mookie Betts, the first game, looked really good as well. Kind of fizzled out in the final 2 games. But the Dodgers, like I said, they're just counting on Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani to lead the offense. Everybody else knows their role. Get on base for those 3. Once those 3 or even 2 of those 3 are clicking, I feel like the Dodgers offense will be fine. Like I said, new month. August 1st starts tomorrow. They start a series, I believe. Who are they playing tomorrow? You guys know off the top of your head?
It's the Rays and the Cardinals.
Tampa, right?
Rays, Tampa. Going to Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, where it's even more humid. So we'll see how that goes there. I think Saturday's game's a day game in Florida, which is kind of painful. Dalton Rushing's going to wear one. He's going to catch that day. But yeah, take a series win from a hot American League team that was buyers at the deadline, and go from there, return home, and continue playing winning baseball, because now these games count. And with the Padres doing the moves they did, the Mets doing it, you don't want one of those bottom seeds even if you win the division. You want the bye. You want to take a break. So these games count starting now. Every game is meaningful. I don't want to hear any of that talk, where it's like, it's just one game. No, every game, one game can separate you winning the division or you having the 2nd seed to a 3rd seed. So I think they got to get in the right mindset, but I think they got off to a decent start offensively in Cincy. We'll see where it goes in Tampa.
Yeah, it's time to lock in, guys. So yeah, we can start putting our game faces on for the remainder of the season and really just get ready for post, because it's getting a little too close for comfort. So the NL West it's the Padres and the Dodgers at this point. So we're really going to just probably have to have a showdown with them in August. It'll be wild when we see them again. So we'll definitely want to put a little distance as much as we can before that series happens, and kind of make it feel a little safer. But yeah, that's going to be fun and interesting. But at the end of the day, something tells me that it's all going to come out okay. We are the Dodgers. We're built for 162. And even though we have our struggles, and we had them a lot last year, and look at how that turned out. So hopefully repeat is in our future. There'll be a lot more great conversations as we see how these new pieces, even though they weren't flashy pieces, we'll see how they fit into our team, and wish them nothing but the best. So to all those new pieces, welcome. And we're definitely excited to have you. We want nothing but your success. But yeah, we're just going to kind of just round some things out. Definitely want to give some shout outs to the people in the chat. So I see lots of people commenting. So kind of been just kind of keeping an eye on that, but just shout out to Victor Gomez. I see Doom Cell, Michael Carrillo, Justin Option, Chris Nam. Thank you for joining us tonight. Bunch more. Kevin Nando, just kind of hoping we touched a little bit and kind of eased some concerns that there may have been with the trades. But thank you all for being a part of our live show. But just kind of want to get your last takes on predictions. Cody, Anthony, and I like to do predictions. I don't know if it's always the safest thing, Anthony, because maybe we do sometimes, but we are playing Tampa Bay, and we talked about them a little bit right now. I think we're going to see Kershaw and Snell. Snell's coming back. So not real sure about the third game, but maybe producer Roger can let me know what the probables are, but definitely going to see Kershaw and Snell. How do you think we are going to play against them?
I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Just because, not because it's the Rays, but like just like you said, spring training or AAA facility. It's gonna be a Saturday day game, weird time, super hot, humid. But I'm very excited to see Blake Snell pitch. I feel like the last time we saw him, we were kind of still like celebrating the World Series. It was like April. He was wearing the gold jersey, and like felt kind of weird him wearing the gold jersey because he wasn't on the team last year, but. That's kind of where I'm most excited for this series, apart from watching Kershaw as well, to kind of like, I want to see where Blake Snell's at, because he's kind of like a big missing piece that we have in the rotation. So I'm kind of excited to see it. It's funny when we do these predictions, like you say something and like the opposite happens. I always go back to that Angel series where I called a sweep and we ended up getting swept. So I'm going to go, because I'm a Dodger fan, I'm biased. I'm going to go 2-1. We're gonna win 2 of these games, and we'll drop one of these. Yeah, probably the Sunday 9 o'clock. It says 9:10 our time here, so that's just an ugly time at that time.
It's Yamamoto too, so it's Kershaw, Snell, and producer Roger has said we have Yamamoto on the mound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, see, like now I feel bad for giving Yamamoto the loss.
See if that
I still think we're gonna drop one game though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably going along with what Anthony's saying. I do think one game dropping is a realistic ask in Florida, in the heat, with the humidity, playing 2-day games, one at 1 p.m. Eastern here and then another at 12. That's a big ask, and especially a big ask for Snell's first start. Saturday is the day where they're playing at 1 o'clock here. It's going to be as hot as it is. If he starts to get in a little bit of trouble, pitch count gets a little erratic, it may turn into a bullpen game. That would probably be the one I would peg them to lose if Snell gets into trouble. But I think the offense, if they want to pick a field to wake up at, it would be this one. It's a minor league park, basically. It's not even a minor league park. It's a spring training park. And, start to tee off. I want to see Ohtani hit it out of the stadium. He could definitely do it there. I've been there. It's not that big of a stadium. And I'll go 2-1, hopefully get the Yamamoto bump day win, and then head back home and enjoy the Los Angeles weather.
Yes, they are coming back next week. There will be some fun games. I know, Anthony, you're going to the Kobe night. I'll be at the Hello Kitty, possibly Kobe too.
Oh, I'm going to Hello Kitty night too as well now.
So we get to pose with our Hello Kitty bags?
If I get there on time and get a bag, yeah. That might be a bloodbath too, so. We'll see.
Yeah, people are serious about Hello Kitty. Let's be honest. But yes, it's going to be a fun week at Dodger Stadium. But yeah, it's been an amazing show. Feel like it just went by so fast. But we're just going to go ahead and start wrapping it up. I know, Cody, that you write some amazing articles day in and day out. For those people who don't know, tell them where they can find your work.
Yeah, everyone that's been watching this long enough, obviously, Drea, you plugged it at the beginning of the show, DodgersBeat.com. That's where we have everything as well. We got updates, opinions, breaking news, just everything Dodgers, especially with the trade deadline right now. I'm definitely going to, after this episode, start writing up my thoughts more articulate so people can read that in my columns tomorrow. Obviously, if you follow me on X, I got my X handle there. You can follow me. I believe that's all my social medias, but I'm primarily on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And that's where I post all my writings, my thoughts. If you don't see it at DodgersBeat.com, it'll be on my Substack, where I also post everything I do on Dodgers Beat on there as well, if you guys want to sub to that. But yeah, it was great to talk to you guys. Definitely gonna have to start doing this more. I kind of miss it, and especially with the second half of the season coming here, getting ready for August, September, and then October. That's when it really gets fun.
Oh, I got to thank you for coming on. I actually learned a lot from you prior to myself doing podcasts. So I got to thank you for keeping me informed and really just helping me become a better Dodger fan. So thank you, Cody, for joining. Hope we get to do this again. So Anthony, if you have my notes are done. If there's anything you want to add?
No, I'm excited. I know it's probably an uneasy feeling for a lot of Dodger fans. Feels like we didn't do enough, but you got to trust these guys. And sometimes some of the reaction, it surprises me because it feels like people are treating it like we haven't won a World Series in like 40 years. Last I checked, we lifted one up in October of last year. So patience is always a virtue. So it's better just to let's take a deep breath and just let's move on to tomorrow and let's watch some Dodger baseball, basically.
I like it. Landing it on a positive note. It's going to be okay. We are going to be just fine. I have a lot of confidence in this team and in this front office. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. So definitely, I know we've been plugging it throughout the show, but check out DodgersBeat.com. You can get all the latest articles, interviews, pregame, postgame, you name it. It is at DodgersBeat.com. Definitely, as Cody said, check out our handles. You can find him on X and Instagram at SnavelyCody6. You can find me on X at Ravine Queen, and you can find Anthony on X at Anthony Acosta _. And until next time, go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.